Hello and welcome to I Am Geek, and this is episode 199. I'm Ryan. I'm joined by my brother Chris and our good pal Katrin. And tonight we have a very, very, very special guest. It is Ryan Donoghue, who is an animator, visual effects, everything, all the cool stuff that you see on the screen. He has done. His list is a mile long of all the stuff he's done. His latest thing that I'm obsessed with is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at Disney's Hollywood Studios. So hopefully we'll be talking about that and all of his work from beginning until now. So let's welcome Ryan. Ryan, welcome to I Am Geek.
Hi there. Well, thank you for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure to be talking with you. Yeah, absolutely. Even if Chris is here.
I mean, at any point, if you get sick of having me here, I can step away.
Okay.
I'm a team player. I want the podcast to go well. So
yeah, that was an option.
Yeah. That's why he's in that black background. He just sort of fades into the back.
I just fade into the background. And, yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything for you.
It's funny that we have two Chris's and two Ryans on, so this is like the first for us.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I don't know why. We just have to have, that's our guest. They have to have the same name as at least one of us to be on the show from now on.
that would be a gimmick.
Yeah. But Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, about yourself, about what you do, and how you sort of got there?
Sure. Yeah, currently I am a consultant with Imagineering as kind of either an animation or media director or VFX supervisor. It's a little weird what my designation is because working as a consultant, they don't necessarily have like an animation director that works with their shows because and this is something very specific to Imagineering, is that when you're in-house there, when you say animation, everyone there means animatronics. And so when you're working on the AA figures, you're doing the animation. Anything else is digital media. And so, they have supervisors and leads, but I was a little bit different because I came in as a consultant and then worked in-house for 2 years. And then in the last year, I've been working as a consultant again. But essentially, my job, I came in for the first version of Mickey's Runaway Railway in 2016, and I've been on it since then, working on the new version now that's been announced for LA. And my job is to be in charge of the creation of all the 2D animated media that showcases in the ride. And so I work with a wonderful team of people, and a lot of them do a lot of the heavy lifting, and especially the second time around since we're kind of remaking the ride. But normally what it consists of is just kind of dealing with the creation of the jokes and the gags, figuring out the timing of the ride, kind of the audio pass, and timing all the animation with it. It initially started dealing with some of the bidding and working with Disney TV, who with the people who created the Mickey shorts, and with their vendor who creates the animation for the Mickey shorts series, Mercury Animation in Canada. And so working with those guys and my team, I was basically just, creating all the animation assets, backgrounds, artwork, characters, effects animation, everything that you see moving that is a projected or digital piece of art in the ride came through my team. And then if you break it down, it's about 75% of the scope of the ride is projected with the artwork as opposed to the what they would call show set, which is all the more conventional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then to go back a bit, I'm a classically, I guess I went to school trained for 2D animation, and over the course of my career, I've just kind of fallen in and out of different jobs and different types of media, from working on TV shows like Futurama to then going to do some concept design for some video game places, and then the bulk of my time was doing CG visual effects animation with your brother Chris there at Rhythm and Hughes mostly. And
He said my name.
Yes.
Oh, I remember Chris.
Oh, do tell.
And just kind of working in all these different kind of venues. I've always just kind of felt, as a job, I try not to get too myopic about what my focus is as an artist. Some people tend to feel that that I'm an animator and that's what I am, or I am an effects animator, or I am a storyboard artist, or I am a character designer. And people tend to stick with that, and that's totally great because some people, that's what they love, and they know they love it, and they stick to it, and they hone their abilities till they get to be, maybe the best, that there is at it. And I'm one of these people that knows a little bit about everything and kind of falls into these jobs as they come around, and just tries to, meet whatever challenge is there. So, I like that aspect of it because it makes it a little bit more varied for me. I know if I do one thing too long, I start to get a little antsy and then want a different kind of creative challenge to do.
Yeah, I mean your work. I mean, I was kidding around, but I literally have a page here of all the stuff that you worked on. Let's go back. You mentioned Futurama. I know that's Chris is one of Chris's favorites.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you did on Futurama?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. When the show was greenlit, it was right around 1998 when I was graduating from CalArts, and the owner of the studio, Rough Draft Studios, who produced the animation for the show, Greg Vanzo, and the supervising director of the series, Rich Moore, who went on to direct Zootopia and a bunch of that other stuff there at Disney. They went to the CalArts producer show, and they basically ended up hiring almost our entire graduating class of people, which sounds like a lot, but then that ended up being 20 people. So there was about 22 or 25 people that graduated that year from the program, and about 20 of us went to go work on the show. And I was given the choice at the time of either going in as a character layout artist or a BG layout artist. And in that year, I had spent a lot of time drawing, like extensive backgrounds and perspective, and just really thinking of composition and everything. And I was thinking at the time that my goal was to go be a layout artist on a 2D feature movie eventually. Not really taking into account myself about how much animation 2D stuff was going to be going away. And so I picked BG layout for the show. And what that means is when you're doing layout on a TV series like The Simpsons or Futurama, most shows don't work this way. But, Simpsons always had, so then, Futurama did. And layout is like an extra step for a TV show, where it's basically like, doing the cinematography pass on the show, where you take the storyboards and then you start creating all the shots as they are, laying them out on paper, taking the storyboards, setting the camera fielding, setting up the camera pans, drawing them all out. And then the character layout artist then gets the BG with the storyboards and then starts, posing out the characters. And what they'll do is they'll pose out like the main acting beats, to try and get the main gist of the character acting. And sometimes you can treat it like animation, but because of the way TV works, you can't really animate in layout too much, because it just, they're going to end up redoing it all overseas anyway. So it's all about honing it down to just the core essence of what a scene needs to get the point across. And the idea is that with layout is that it was another, kind of step in the process that would kind of maintain quality. And so, yes, I picked BG layout, and that's what I did for about the first season. And then I I actually kind of regretted my choice, and because I was a little bit ignorant about TV animation and what the roles would be, and I realized soon that BG layout people, they ended up not getting paid as much in the union at the time as a character layout artist. And this was a non-union show, and they did start us all out at the same salary when we started. But I just found that like the nature of what the TV show needed, and for drawing the backgrounds, once you drew Fry sitting on the couch in the break room in the Planet Express building, and then you've got to draw the couch on the same angle or a different angle, and 6 months later you've drawn that couch like 50 million times, and so you could kind of get your work done pretty quickly, and it was a good learning experience, but I really realized, oh my god, I should have just gone right to the character layout. And so then I did that for the second season, and it went okay for the first half of the season, and I worked on a bunch of episodes like Raging Bender and the Nixon for President one, where he turns into the giant robot at the end. And the first one with Evil Bender. There's a whole opening of that show where they go skidding through the Rockettes, the robot Rockettes, and knocking their legs off in the Gremlin that Fry was driving. And I did all that stuff, but the one of the things I struggled with as an artist was keeping the characters on model. And I would say at the time there, from my experience, being on a TV show almost felt like being on a sports team, where you're only good for whatever season you're on, and then if you end up the next season not doing as good, then they just cut you. And so I was really, really good at doing BGs, and I was medium good at doing character layout. And it mostly came down to my draftsmanship in being able to keep the characters on model. And one of the things, it's like some people just get it really, really quickly, and others, struggle with it. And so then I spent most of season 2 doing character layout, and then I moved back to BG, and I did that for the remainder of the show until it got canceled the first time. And then, after that, that was the end of my time with that show. But it was about 3 years of crazy overtime, a lot of learning. All my college friends all sitting there at cubicles back at CalArts, then transplanted to cubicles in the studio, except now instead of debt, we're making money, and none of us have kids. And so it was just a crazy fun time with a lot of, going out to restaurants. There was a bar across the street called Duffy's that we used to go to every Friday. And, our layout team would sit there, and we would close the bar at 2:30 in the morning or 2 in the morning, whatever it was, because we were, 25,
So you don't necessarily remember those 5 seasons. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
You have worked on a lot of my favorite episodes on Futurama, though, because I had to look it up, like Fry in the Slurm Factory.
Oh yeah.
The Raging Bender, I really like that. The Honking, and Anthology of Interest 2.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got to season 5 and I saw Jurassic Bark, and I got sad again.
Oh,
because if you want to be depressed watching a cartoon, you watch that episode of Futurama. Like that'll just bring you down to tears. Like take Toy Story 3 and like times that by 5, and you get Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
oh.
I
don't think he wrote the story, though.
Yeah.
Well, no, he did. No, he didn't.
It's all your fault, Ryan.
It's all your fault. I blame you for it.
We knew it was going to make you cry. I didn't know you yet, but we did know.
That's why I drew that.
Somewhere
couch
out
that way.
there, there's a kid.
Yeah, I did work on that last. I don't remember most of my work in that show. There are certain things, because it's been so much time, where I remember episodes that I worked on, but not every detail of every episode. And some of the shots, are more throwaway shots, because they're like interstitial cuts and stuff like that. So you don't remember every like line that you draw. But I do remember the last shot of that show, and it was me and my friend David Lee, who was the 2D animator effects artist, and it was one of the things they did hire. Our friend Dave is a tremendously talented special effects animator who had just been assisting on Iron Giant, and when that wrapped, we showcased his work to the owners of the show and the studio and said, "Oh my God, this guy could come in and animate this stuff." And they went for it, and they brought him in. And he basically, for that first run of the show, he was an animator who did special 2D animated effects. And so there's one of the things I thought that shined about the show, what made it look a cut above some other things that might have been on around the same time, was just the fact that we had this extra little fully animated 2D stuff. So so with that, Dave and I worked on that last scene. And so I drew a basic BG of the pizza shop. And then I started taking all the elements of the BG because it's a big time lapse. And then I started breaking them off onto different animation layers. And every piece of paper was another portion of it. And then for each portion of each one of those layers, then I started doing all the time changes. So then each different layer of a portion of the building had another drawing in it that detailed with cracks showing and seasons changing and snow coming and snow going away. And after I laid out this whole architecture of this massive, massive scene, David went in and started animating snow falling and rain and stuff happening. And by the time we were done, we presented them with, a single scene that was going to have over 100 layers of animation. Time out. Now, ultimately, they had to pare it way down because it was too complicated and it couldn't be done feasibly for a TV show. So, what you get there is kind of about half of the work that we actually put into that shot to get it to really animate between the seasons and do like a true time lapse. But, it gets the idea across and does what it needs to do. And so it's kind of us and our kind of lack of experience of just going for the big thing instead of thinking about what actually would work. But I do remember doing that shot and being excited for it.
Well, if it had remained that what you just said, I still would be recovering to this day probably. Yeah, Ryan. But Ryan has a thing with animals in shows and movies where if something happens to them, he will not watch it. So that's not an episode for you.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'll ask somebody, they'll be like, "You should watch this show," and I'm like, "Is there an animal in it?" "Oh yeah." "Does anything happen to the animal?" "Well, maybe." "Okay, I'm not gonna watch that show."
Same with
I hear you. I can't watch ever since we've had kids. I can't watch any movie where kids are hurt, or something like if it's some rated R murder mystery thriller and a kid starts to become the victim, I'm like, yeah, I'll turn it off.
Yeah, me too.
I don't have kids, so I just keep watching.
I still, yeah. Chris doesn't care. I still haven't watched Life of Pi, so
Cold, dead heart.
Yeah, that's why he's got that black background. Okay, I've done my speaking of the blackness, the darkness. I've done my research. I hear, I could be totally wrong. I could have been fed false information. I hear that you're a fan of Halloween, the Halloween time of year.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it is my favorite holiday. Yes.
Mine too.
Absolutely. Yay!
Yes.
I love Halloween. And then I see on your list that one of my favorite horror movies that you were a part of, and I'm interested in what all you did on it, The Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, that was one that was fun to be a part of, and I was on it for a relatively short amount of time. That was one of our other coworkers, if you remember, Chris, was Matt Shumway was the animation supervisor on that show. And so at some point, they just, as the shows were getting close to crunch, they needed to bring on some more people. And I forget what I was doing. I must have wrapped some other show and then became available. And at this point, I wasn't, I can't remember if I was a lead or a supervisor at this time. I'm forgetting the time. I think I might have been a lead, but not on this show. So I just, went into that show and just animated. And it was about 6 or 8 weeks of work for me. And, we had a few shots. And so I didn't do a whole lot in the movie, but, most of what I got to do all revolved around the pandemonium that happens at the end of the show. And so there's, the one of the shots, it's not even a main shot in the show, but there's a shot where there's the murder bot. Yeah. It was this giant box with like chainsaws and all this stuff and spider legs, but it's just a big box with like robot legs. And it's just barreling down a stairway, doing all this stuff. And I believe it's Bradley Whitford sees it on one of the closed circuit TVs when he's in the control room. So there's a bunch of shots of all these multiple things happening. And then there was the dragon bat, the big flying thing that was, flying into walls. And I had just this one short sequence of it where it just kind of comes out of a hole in the wall and then just starts flying and hitting every wall down the hallway as it disappears and goes away. And then after that, there was the cycles. And so everyone that was on the show had to make kind of video game like idle cycles of all these monsters, and we just had to make bunches of them. And so what that meant is you just basically it's a wide elevator shot at the end of the movie where they call out and you just see boxes of all the tens of thousands of monsters all laid out in all their little cubes. And so everyone was just making cycles. They just make something, and it was just like dragon bats and scary little girls and all this stuff, and it was all these things with them just kind of ambling back and forth or doing something different. And one of the things I don't know if people really realize is that because they're so hard to see, and I don't know if it's been talked about because I haven't watched making of stuff for the movie, but Valve, the video game company, sent us a bunch of animation. And so there are Half-Life monsters in there. So there's a whole plethora of the face huggers and the zombie guys or whatever they are, the alien guys from Half-Life 2 are all in there in that shot. And they were animated directly by Valve. And then what they did was send us animation layers with lighting layers that we then just did all the compositing on, or Rhythm and Hughes did to put them in the shot. Cool. Now, I'll tell you one thing that was fun about working on that movie is that we had overtime. And so we were working weekends, and that wasn't the fun part, but it was on Halloween. And so I was sitting there on Halloween at like 9 a.m. on like a Saturday or Sunday animating a monster movie. And I'm like, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect.
Do you have a favorite Halloween season movie that you always watch every Halloween?
Well, yeah. There's a few. Every time it gets towards the end of September, I have to watch The Adventures of Ichabod Crane. That when you talk about Disney stuff, and I know it's a TV special and all that stuff, and not necessarily the effort put forth of some of their other feature stuff at the time, but it's just for all the storytelling and character design and animation of it, it is just one of my absolute favorite things that Disney has ever done. And I love it to pieces. And it's one of those things that every year I have to watch it and just instantly puts me in the mood. And so I'm also, I love old school spooky stuff. I'm not really into violence and like slasher gore. movies, so I don't really watch those, but I love all the old Universal movies. I love campy. I love watching the 1950s, like really cheesy B movies. Stuff like Beetlejuice is there. I love watching Beetlejuice every year. But then there's also like some of the stuff from the 1960s, like there's this Criterion Collection movie, The Innocents, which is a movie I just absolutely love, and the original Haunting, not the 90s Haunting. But
Was it Vincent Price? Is that the Vincent Price one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
that one's fun.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched it, but yeah, I always have to watch it every year to go, But it's one of those movies where it's like, that movie is all about the cinematography, the black and white Haunting. And, they don't show so much as much as they just use the camera to make it feel oppressive and dreadful. And I love it. Absolutely.
That's cool.
I always have to find, I usually find it online because I can't really find anywhere else on YouTube, the Garfield Halloween special.
Mm-hmm.
It just reminds me of childhood, like in Halloween, and I just remember being really creeped out as a kid because the old man, like in the cabin, was just super creepy.
Yes.
And it's just, I don't know, it's a fun little thing for Halloween.
It's funny because I watch Sleepy Hollow every Halloween season.
Every week.
Yeah. Every like Halloween season, I watch the Johnny Depp Sleepy Hollow. I actually have the Headless Horseman sitting back here, statue of him.
Okay.
So so I'm right there with the whole Ichabod Crane and stuff. That's cool. Well, let's jump. We started talking about Runaway Railway, but we sort of sidetracked. So let's jump back to that, and as much detail as we can go into, we go into. I know it's Disney, and there's snipers all around, and I don't want you to. If we see a red dot, we'll just shut down the stream.
Just tell me to duck. Yeah.
It's such a fascinating ride that because it has a 2D and a 3D and everything mixed together. Now is it going to be the same in LA or in Disneyland, Anaheim, or is it going to be a little different? Or
they've. You could expect there might be a few new surprises, but we're remaking the ride. So there's like some of those things because they haven't announced it. I can't really go into detail about what's going to be new or how it's going to be new or different. But we're remaking the ride, and you could just expect that because you have to remake things. Not everything always happens exactly the same way, so that gives you opportunities to come up with some new things. So there will be some differences.
Yeah, because I know, I mean, even probably the inside jokes, because I know the one in Florida, it replaced a ride, and there's little inside jokes in the ride about, the
Great movie ride.
The Great Movie Ride.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure those probably won't be, that wouldn't make sense to be at Disneyland.
Yeah. Yes. The whole setup, which they haven't announced, is going to be different to get into the ride because obviously you're not going to the Grauman's, Chinese theater to go see the premiere of his new short. You're already in Toontown. And so, the conceit of the ride, right, is that you get brought into the cartoon world to see, you buy Mickey Mouse and you travel through the cartoon. And so it's going to be a little bit of a different intro as far as, what they have announced is that there's the El Capitan Theater is what they've put on the artwork that they've put out instead of the Grauman's. But
did you work on the intro at all or just sort of the main ride?
So if you're talking about the theater piece, yes, I did help with that. But I wasn't responsible for the storytelling that happened at that portion. I had at one point was boarding a script by our creative director for that section, and due to the what's necessary for making the timing and everything work, what we had was way too long. And so at that point, Paul Rudish, who is the creator of the Mickey shorts, and it was basically going to be a whole single cartoon. It was just easier just to have them just do it. Yeah. So it went over to the Mickey shorts guys, and they just made what they made for that. But we would have kind of creative meetings and talk about like notes and stuff like that. And we did watch it together, and kind of do some takes and notes with Mercury Animation about it. But I wasn't as involved in the actual like how the jokes went. And the guys there on the Mickey shorts, the people that they had working there or have working there are some of the most talented people I've seen. They're super great people, wonderful, funny, and incredible board artists, and they really make those shorts sing. Like the boarding they do on that show is incredible.
Yeah,
hats off to them.
we love watching those shorts.
Yeah, those are really good.
And myself, that intro sets up that ride so perfectly. I was fortunate enough to ride it before the world shut down. I got to see that part, and I was talking to a guy today, and said that we were having you on tonight, and about what you did. He goes, "Yeah, because he just got back from Disney like a month ago or something." He goes, "I just didn't get the ride because it was I liked it, but I was confused." And I'm like, "You didn't have the intro, did you?" And he said, "Oh no, there's an intro." And I'm like, "Yeah, see, the intro sets it up perfectly, and then the whole ride makes sense." So during the pandemic, they haven't had the intro, so some people first time riding may be a little confused. But trust me, the intro, when you see the intro, the whole thing makes perfect sense, and it's one of my favorite rides at Disney now. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. It is an important bit, and it is sad. The necessities of it that require that it can't be seen, because it sets up the whole ride, and it's even though you have a little bit more of queue line after it to get on the actual ride, it's a little similar to Rise of the Resistance in that manner, because our vehicles are the same technology, and our pre-shows set up the story. So like the pre-show at Rise of the Resistance, like except theirs is just on a much bigger scale. So it's like they have kind of like 2 or 3 pre-shows before you get to the ride, and ours is the one. But yeah, without it, it's then it's just kind of chaos happening.
That's a good way to describe it. There is a lot of chaos that happens.
A lot of chaos.
But it is so cool. So how was it?
Enjoy it.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I didn't see the intro.
Oh yeah, that's
but
right.
I still enjoyed it for what it is. I mean, it's just a fun ride, and all the animation and things that happened. It's a lot of fun. So I never was a huge fan of the Great Movie Ride, so I was kind of glad. One of the few.
Somebody. Here comes the comments now.
Oh
God. Can you tell us a little bit about how, because it's got the 2D and the 3D, and how it mixes, and how that you don't have to give away the magic, but how is that for you working in basically 2D and 3D, mixing them together for a ride? Because that's like a third element. You got a ride, and then you have 2D animation, 3D animation, all going on at the same time. And I mean, it's perfect the way it came out. But how was that? I'm sure that was something new for you to work on.
Sure. Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a challenge, especially in the beginning, and not because of like technical hardship. It's when you're on project sometimes and you're going for a very specific art direction or look, the challenge is to make sure you nail that look and keep it consistent. And so early on, we could have done any number of different things, and my mindset going into it, when I was new on the project, was I was thinking about this anime movie, Tech on Concrete, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's an early 2000s anime movie, and it's on DVD, and I forget the name of the director. He was like this North American guy that went to Japan. He was like one of the first ever actual directors of a anime feature in Japan. They usually don't let foreigners come in the country to do that. Like it's hard for them to break in. But what they did in that show was, they were like one of these first ones that took a lot of 3D generated models and sets with cameras, and they basically textured them with the 2D artwork. And so it was different than the type of lighting you would do where you're applying, texture maps and everything, and lighting and compositing and trying to get, all the pretty lights and everything for something to look like it's three-dimensional and real. It was more of the giving dimension and letting the artwork carry the lighting, in it. And so that was kind of like a roadmap for me in thinking about how we went through it. And then from there, it was, just looking at how the show is done, just watching the shorts like ad nauseum, and trying to figure out every bit of timing and structure of their shots, and when they did certain types of shots that required 3D themselves, because they do have some, and they hide it very well. And so that informed a bunch. And so with getting into it, we ended up, at one point I was thinking we would build more of the backgrounds in the shots out of 3D models that we would do like Tekken Concrete. But then working with the guys on my team, they were very, very talented, kind of compositors and effects guys, and kind of generalist guys. And we would kind of talk about the concepts, and I would get on a whiteboard and just kind of draw out like what I think the look should be and how these things should be layered. And then we'd have a bit of a back and forth, because those guys were more knowledgeable about how to achieve some of the stuff than I was. I could think of the concept and think about what I wanted it to be. But some of the guys I was working with, they're I am not a user of compositing software like Nuke or some of the actual computer effects software. Like I know animation, like character stuff, but I don't know how to do the other stuff. And so these guys came out with a bag of tricks and could solve anything. And so that informed us back to going to utilizing a lot of animation on cards and kind of faking 3D stuff with it. And so yeah, it really is a hodgepodge. And when you get into the ride, the thing that happened with us a lot was because of the timing, the structure of the ride to make sure it all flowed. Each room is a different location, right? And so that you go through. And so each one of those, because of how they're set up, required a different approach. So there wasn't like a locked down, this is our production standard and this is what we're going to do for everything as we go through the ride. It was like, oh, well, this is what's happening. And the best way to do that is to make a 3D model that we're texturing everything onto. This one, the characters are going from left to right, so we can just keep it all 2D flat and then do like stuff with the layers to just separate them and offset their animation. One of the main rules I just had for this was that everything that we could make kinetic needed to be kinetic, so it didn't feel like you were looking at still images. And it was one of the hard things, because it's supposed to be a living animated world, but to make animation living, you don't want to take a 2D show like that and start to make it 3D, because it ruins what's good about the aesthetic of that show. It would destroy it. Right. So the trick is to do 3D kind of motions and placements of things, but keep everything in a 2D card-based world. And that ended up working the best for us. I'm not sure if that makes total sense to everyone. So if there's more, I can try and describe it a different way. I don't know. Does that sound okay, Chris?
Yeah, it made sense to me. Katrin, did you get it?
Yes,
you good?
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan, you good?
Oh, all of it. Okay. No, I did. I understood. This is a random question, and I'm probably if I say something that's stupid, just say, yeah, that's not how that's done.
Oh, I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that's stupid.
Okay.
How many project? Okay, first off, kids, it's all real. These are real Mickey Mouse running around. Okay, now close your ears. How many projectors does it take to do something like that?
It depends. It's I don't know if I'm allowed to say the exact number.
You don't have to.
A bunch.
A bunch.
But
you could say a bunch.
It's a bunch.
Because I like looking at that technical stuff, and so when I'm on the ride,
Don't ruin it. Oh, come on.
no, I just look at them like
You're one of those.
Why? Because I like that
You're gonna.
stuff.
Are you gonna explain the Pepper's Ghost?
I can if you want me to.
Well,
No, I just look at that stuff. I'm like, man, because it's part of the art to me. It's part of the, this is part of the art. Like how they make this happen is part of the art. So I like to look around and be like, how did they do this? How does this work? And because it's amazing to me, just look at all that. Like when Mickey and Minnie come out on their little car, and and you see this sort of 3D, but it still looks sort of 2D. It's just amazing how. And I would, we're not going to ruin the magic, but I would love to know exactly how all that works. But we don't have to.
It's
ruin the
horrible to ride a ride with because you just look around and go, oh, well, that's fake. This is really good. That over there, that's not real.
He doesn't get scared at haunted houses. He knows what's coming up.
Sorry, it's because I worked in haunted houses for years and I know all the magic.
Even if you're on like Rock and Roller Coaster, just going super fast, he's like, "That's not really Steve Tyler."
We're only going 30 miles an hour.
I still like the magic, but I like the other part of it too. I like the technical part of it and how it works and how they can turn the great movie ride into this, the same building into this magnificent thing where one minute you're dancing with Daisy, the next you're falling down a waterfall, and you're all in this building, and it's just really cool to me. And I'm sure Ryan thinks it's really cool too.
Well, I'm the same way. I mean, this was a real first ride experience for me, working on it. And, this is coming from being a fan and, loving to go to Disneyland, and the Haunted Mansion and the original Pirates are, my two favorite rides in the whole world. And I revere those things. And, of course, being an animation fan and loving the Nine Old Men, and then a lot of those other artists like, Claude Coates and Raleigh Crump and all these other guys, and Herb Ryman, all Imagineering artists, and the work that they did on these rides, I've revered it. So, I always am like looking for everything and how it's done. And I remember years ago, before they released this stuff, I had a friend that had a bunch of the ride soundtracks on cassette tape. That another friend of his that had worked somewhere was able to get his hands on them and probably shouldn't have. And so, we started like listening, and he let me copy all his tapes. And then that was the first time I was like, oh my God, I can listen to this outside of the park. And, it took a few years later, about 5 years later, they started releasing all the CDs and that stuff. And I've got like 80 gigs on my computer here of Disneyland soundtracks. Oh, wow. I just love it to death. So I always thought about it. So I came into this, like wondering that too. And, it's one of the things that was really fun about this experience for me is that coming into this, right? Like it's always the thing that people say, it's like everyone does everything. And there is some truth to that. And some of the people I work with, they're amazing engineers. There are these people that they can sculpt, they can build machines, they can draw, like they can do all this stuff. And so when you're trying to think of like, how do we make this story work? And then someone goes, well, what if we put it on, this doodad that it can pop up? And then if we use this special projector with this lens, that'll make it feel like it's warping around this image. And they're like, yeah, we can do that. And so it's kind of this like shooting off ideas back and forth. That was really exciting to me. And so a lot of the more technical aspects of how it's done and how it's balanced was me coming in and working with these incredibly knowledgeable people that knew all this stuff. And then it was me taking in what they were saying and realizing opportunity, like, ooh, if we did that and that does that effect, then, Goofy can be on a TV screen or whatever that's a layer in front, so he looks like he's in third dimension inside the loco. Then we can add all this other stuff. And then I start thinking about how to make the animation work and how to make it more alive. And so it was a lot of this like back and forth with incredibly talented people. Like one of this gentleman who just retired, his name is Thomas Leduc, was an absolute genius of a man who just knows how to make anything happen. So when you talk about someone that knows how to make like ride stuff, I mean, he has I don't know how long his career is, but he knows how to do it. Like he's got an idea for everything. And working with someone like that was an incredible learning experience for me. So it was like, it was like going into this thing where you're like dumped into a pit of smart people and you're just getting fed all this wonderful information, and you just get to take it in and try and give back something with them and hopefully keep up with them. So, that was kind of a gist of my experience there, but very non-technical way. But yeah.
Okay, here's a question that won't ruin the magic. That will be more Catron and Chris's speed for the ride. It won't bore them.
I didn't say it was boring.
Well,
No.
I mean, like, won't ruin the magic for you. What do you have a favorite gag on the ride?
Let's see. I love there's two ways to think about it. There's the kind of technical side of the gag and how it achieves a look, and then there's the actual joke gags that are in there. And I really, really love the dimensional kind of layered figures. So the stuff we have in the booths and the carnival and Goofy and the locomotive are some of my favorite things. But then in the city has a bunch of extra little stuff in there, and it's one of the ones that people go through quicker, and there's a lot happening in it, and it's too much for everyone to take in. But there was a fun thing where our artist in the field working on the show, this guy, Dave Christophers, who's one of those jack of all trades guys who knows how to do everything. He figured out something with our projector coverage and figured out how we could start adding lighting effects to things where projection wasn't supposed to be. And as soon as he showed me that, then the two of us were like kids in the candy store sitting there going like, ooh, we can make this happen. We can make this happen. So, like there's little things like Daisy's, there's the tutu van that Donald's driving in the city portion. And there's a light blinker on it. And that's not an actual light. It's from a projector. That's just illuminating the black light that's on the car to make it look like the thing's going in. And then what I asked him to do was there's on the sidewalk, there's a road going into the the image where it looks like the road's going in forced perspective all the way into the distance. Yeah. And on one corner of the sidewalk, there's a little newspaper that I drew, and I gave it to Dave Christophers, and he took it, and the road is a ramp, and then there's the screen where the road keeps going into the image, and the newspaper is on the ground in the dimensional part of the world, and then it blows into the BG image. So we actually have this newspaper on the ground that transposes from the flat ground and blows into the screen, and then is sitting there, and then the traffic comes up and takes it away. And it's a short little thing, and it was a late edition, and I love that we got that in there. And then the other thing was just as far my favorite thing was figuring out the transformation in the finale scene and how all that goes. All the animation involved with that, the planning of it, all the 2D nature of it. That was one of those things that we had an early presentation to executives, and when John Lasseter was still involved with Disney at the time, and we had to pitch it to him, and and then it's me sitting there going, and then this is going to happen, and the trees are going to fall out of the sky like darts, and other trees are going to pop like popcorn, and the limbs are all going to grow, and everything's going to happen organically all around you. And everyone's like, okay, all right, okay, that sounds good, let's do it. And then it was our job to actually do it, and I feel like we were able to get that part of it to work. So I was really happy with the way that came out.
Oh, every time I ride the ride, I have to that part. I'm like looking at different sections of it, saying, "Okay, how's that fold in, or how's that unfold?" I mean, some of them look like umbrellas that you just open up to make the trees, or close down to make the trees, and it's really cool. It's
thank you.
Really cool how you guys have done that. Any other Easter eggs or hidden things that people can look out for?
Well, I mean, I'd be giving some of them away.
Okay.
I will tell. There are some things that people have seen, absolutely, that are there and people have noticed, and there's some of the more obvious things, like they've made a big talk about how our ride has a B show, which is Pluto trying to catch up. So he's kind of a late comer in all the scenes, and he's there. But there is one secret that is there that no one's picked up on yet, that I haven't seen anywhere. And I guess all I'll say about it is that there's only one character that's in every scene of the ride.
Interesting.
Only one, and no one's picked out who it is. And there was another secret thing I did that is only supposed to happen once every 6 weeks or so.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
And that secret character is you.
Hey, everybody.
It's one frame of my face that just pops on.
It's like Teletubbies. You're in the sun, and it's just going.
He's in the tornado. Every 6 weeks, his face will pop up in the tornado. I think I don't want to. I won't.
He's not speaking. I mean,
I'll tell you.
He's just not like,
yeah. Oh. I may have an idea who the character is, but I'm not gonna say. My favorite character in the ride. I'll say who my favorite character in the ride is. The little bird.
Chubby.
Yeah.
Yes.
When he's juggling the eggs and everything, cracks me up every time.
Cracks you up.
Well, he cracks me up. Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
I'm going back in September, so now I'm going to have to figure out who's in every scene. I'll just tell my family, hey, you guys can have fun. I've got to ride this ride over and over again.
Over and over again.
Be standing up on the ride, turning around, trying to look.
The hard thing is that to be able to actually see this character is you have to be able to ride all 4 cars, because a single ride through can't allow you to see it because of the nature of how the cars go. Because it's one of the things we did figure out early on is that due to the nature of the self-driving vehicles, it's really hard to tell a singular kind of linear storyline because the cars, need space to be able to do what they do. And so that kind of left us with a way to try and figure out the best way to convey story for the glimpses that people get it. And so that kind of drove us towards the kind of, pandemonium chaos of the cartoon world just happening where it's just crazy. So it's like there's a different story. In car 1, you see the beginnings of things, and in car 4, you see the endings of things. And so you get different feel. It's like, there's in the underwater scene, Pluto gets shot out of the as a torpedo, as he's chasing him down. That happens in the big long, underwater scene with the Kraken and all that stuff. And the first 2 cars out of the room never see that. And it's little stuff like that.
Yeah, my son every time we ride it, we go through that scene, and he's like, "Watch, he's gonna play the trumpet. He's gonna play the trumpet." And then one time, the car that we were in, we didn't see him play the trumpet. And he's like, "He didn't play the trumpet. I don't understand." He loves the Kraken playing the trumpet.
So with that, like in movies and stuff, when we're doing shots and like not drink shots, but
you can do those too.
Actual sequences,
the family friendly.
Yeah, we're watching this like we're watching them over and over again. So like with that, like having to like every 4 cars, like whenever you're doing tweaks and everything, like I mean you're probably having to ride this ride like so many times to like get the full effect of how everything's working. So if you like tweak one thing, ride the ride again.
Yeah.
And like, well, I need to sit in row 2 this time, and now I got to sit in 4. That's you've had to ridden quite a bit.
Oh yeah. No, I've been on it hundreds of times, hundreds and hundreds of times, and that's not even the actual ride. One of the things that isn't really a secret either, is, they do a lot of pre-visualization of the rides with Unreal. And so we use the game engine and build out the whole buildings, and we start adding our media in. And so one of the things that happened on this ride is I was really not clear coming into it about, like, because I'm used to a VFX production pipeline where everything is like a train car. Everything follows the other thing. And in a perfect world, the guy in the step before you finishes their work before they send it to you, and then you finish your work and send it to the next person. And of course, it gets a little bit more chaotic than that. But in an ideal world, it happens that way. And so I was wondering who was going to be, because for animation, like 2D animation, you need to have audio to be able to time your stuff to. And it just wasn't happening. And so then we just started talking about it. And then I ended up started making, just grabbed Premiere and the videos we were making of stuff, and I started editing stuff together. And next thing you know, I'm laying out all the audio for the show, and then I'm talking with our creative director, and then with one of the other artists that we had with us, a very talented animatronics animator, Avi. We started recording scratch dialogue. So we basically made a whole scratch version of the ride. And then I took that scratch dialogue with some of our other videos of stuff, and I started cutting together the audio. And then once I started cutting together the audio and we're working with Disney TV, then it was about trying to figure out, by looking at videos of the cars with the audio that I made and the storyboards from Disney TV, how those things fit together. And that was a couple-year process of testing and relearning and fixing. And so by the time we got to the field, there were some adjustments that happened, but the goal was to figure out all the big gotchas before we got there. So we didn't have to redo things, because at that point, with the last year of construction on the ride, it's not really conducive for us with the nature of how 2D animation is made to go back to Mercury and go, hey, we need you to redo all this animation. So the goal was to try and figure it all out, know what was going to happen. So we worked with what we had. And then we just had to be nimble enough in the field to just adjust things as needed when little problems or little sync issues or something that might have arisen that we hadn't anticipated. But and I will say for us, and I credit our producer, Sharita, and my other visual effects producer, Becky Train, that I worked with, is one of the brightest people I've ever worked with. She's so smart. They really helped us plan and figure it out and troubleshoot and make it work. And so that when we got there, for our team's part of media, our stuff, went okay. Like it wasn't like like some creative projects you work on, no matter how good the intentions are. Some creative projects just, require or end up having so much overtime or crazy workloads, because sometimes there's things that happen that you can't foresee, and the rug kind of gets pulled out from under you, and next thing you know, you're redoing entire sequences. And we were able to avoid that, which was great. So
very cool. So you must do a mean Mickey Mouse then if you're doing the scratch.
Yeah. Oh boy! Gosh!
There you go.
But
perfect.
So it's funny enough, and I can tell this. Avi, the other animatronic guy that I was working with, he is really good at voices, and for all the scratch he did Goofy and Mickey, and I did Daisy and Minnie. So I was Minnie Mouse for the ride, and that was. So I took my reads and I tried to do my best girl voice that I could, but then I took all the audio and I did shift the pitch up to get the kind of the feel of a dude doing it away, and it worked okay. It was really funny. But the funniest part about it for me, and this was like one of the best memories I have of working on the ride, is when we're recording the actors. So the folks that come in to do the voices. So the voice of Minnie Mouse comes in, and oh god, she's such a sweet lady. She's lovely, and she has to hear me doing Minnie. because they're playing the clips for her,
Mhm.
to kind of give her an idea of like the range or something, not to tell her like you need to match it. It wasn't anything like that at all. It was just more of a
Timing and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And so it's in her name is Russi Taylor, and she's just this woman that is, she also does the voice of Ralph Wiggum and Baby Gonzo and all these other voices. Russi did hundreds of voices, and so she's like a titan of character animation voices. And so she comes in and she's like, "Hi, how are you?" She meets you for the first time. She gives you a big hug and a kiss, and she takes your face in both hands and says, "Oh, look at that beard! Oh, wow, look at you!" And you're just like, "Hi."
You're like, it's a pandemic. Leave me alone.
This was before that.
Yeah, I know.
But she comes in and then they play it for her, and she turns to me and she's like, "Honey, that was just absolutely wonderful."
Aw.
But that was not Minnie.
That's
Like,
awesome.
totally get it.
He's
Okay.
like, I'm a dude. I get it.
I'm so sorry.
That's funny.
We didn't really touch on this, the animatronics in there. How many animatronics are there in there, Ryan?
About 12-ish, I
12-ish?
think.
Because that's another part of this. You got the 2D, 3D, and then the traditional like animatronic, Disney animatronic.
Mhm.
Has that technology changed much over the years, or do they still sort of use the same kind of stuff that they've been using forever?
I would say it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And it really just depends on the needs of whatever ride or assignment or whatever it is that you're doing. Different projects require different things, and so there isn't like a protocol necessarily of these are our animatronics and this is what we do and this is how we build it, because you're dealing with legacy rides that are really really old, and it's not always just feasible to just replace all the animatronics with new technology just because it's new. There has to be kind of a cost business incentive to spend the money for it to make it happen. And I think some people get the idea or the feeling of like Disney has so much money and everything that they can just, someone has an idea and go, "Hey, I'd like to do that," and they're like, "Yeah, let's just build that." There's a whole lot of thought that goes into planning how the rides happen and who makes them and when, and that kind of dictates those things. So, like, I can say that when they took out the Great Movie Ride, they did repurpose a lot of the animatronics that were 20 years old in there to go into other rides, and they use them for parts and other things, or they replace other characters, and they try to recycle and reuse as much as possible as they can. But on the other side, there's other things that require brand new technology. So, like in the Navi River journey, there's the Navi, the shaman lady at the end, and that's like one of the most sophisticated animatronics they've made. I would say that the biggest change you see between old school animatronics and now is that they're trying to work more with electric motors for the servos, which are more repeatable over the pneumatic driven systems. And the pneumatic systems just kind of fluctuate and change. They're harder to control over time. And so the big thing is that. So our ride, because of the kind of the case that it was, it is all new animatronics, and it was really just kind of, they have a budget and they got to figure out what they can do with that budget, and they push it to the limit, what they can do, and that's what's basically in the ride there.
They do it so well that like one of the Mickeys is actually a repurposed alien from the Great Movie Ride. Like, you can't tell. You
Just
can't
put
tell.
the ears on it. That's it.
Yeah, that was like that. That's all I had to do. And she's like, "Oh, project on it. No problem."
I was thinking, because like Space Mountain, for example, people always want to ride it with the lights on. Like, oh, I want to ride Space Mountain with the lights on. That'd be cool. This ride would probably be terrifying if you rode it with the projectors off, because you'd have like faceless Mickeys, you'd have coming at you in a car and everything. It would probably be like Halloween time. Just turn the projectors off and send people through, and this would be horrifying. It would be
There
cool,
are,
though.
if someone had a mind to it, you could do some really, freaky things. Because all it is, it's art files and
Yeah.
media. You could replace it with lots of stuff, but of course that's frowned upon, so we don't do that.
Oh yeah.
But it's one of those rides because it is, and there's been some footage online, when stuff breaks down or the projectors, don't turn on one day or something like that. It's unfortunate. And, we try to make the best thing that we can happen. But there's always the physical world, which always gets in the way.
Yeah.
Stupid physics. If all the projectors off, you're going through a ride that's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
So it's.
But even when stuff messes up at Disney, it's a story that you have, because how many people get to go through and say, we had to walk off of Pirates of the Caribbean? I mean, it's a cool story. So even when stuff breaks or stuff doesn't go right, it's part of the magic. It's part of the story, because then you go and tell the story, and people are like, I want to write it and see if that happens to me. It's just part of it.
His head fell off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pirates broke down, and the pirates tried to kill us. Like that's.
Oh, that's Kingdom Keeper.
Jurassic Park, I was thinking.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Got that.
Yeah.
One time years ago, I was at the park with my mom, probably about 10 or 12 years ago, and we were on Matterhorn, and it abruptly stopped right at almost at the top, and so someone had to come out and walk us out, and then it's like, we're just standing on the track on the side of the Matterhorn, and then they take you through a door, and got to walk down through the middle of it. And that's the only time I've been inside that, was that one thing. And it was like, you're right. I mean, it's like you're looking at all the things, you're like, oh my God, it was awesome.
Well, I can't believe it. We're already over an hour. So we've kept you for an hour, and this has been amazing. I could talk to you probably all night long about all the Disney magic and everything. And then
I could maybe do another 5 minutes.
Whatever you guys need.
The one thing I have gotten out of the show, the main thing, is that now I have to either figure out how to clone myself so I can ride all the cars at the same time at Mickey's Runaway Railway, or I just have to ride it a ton of times and then somehow video each time and then put it all together. I'm going to be that guy that has the wall with the yarn going everywhere, trying to figure stuff out. Now I have to figure out what characters in every scene, and I have to write it for 6 weeks so I can see this magical thing pop up.
There's plans within plans, yes.
Yeah.
Try to puzzle it out, Clarice.
This will be the death of me.
Well, I would say, if talking about, I know I said all 4 cars, and technically it is that because of the different cars and the different viewpoints, but you could probably get away with it by doing the first and the last car.
First and last car. Okay.
To see it all.
Narrowed it down.
But it was an absolute joy to work on. It was one of the best experiences of my working career, except for the day that I met Chris.
Oh, thank you for lying.
I remember Chris coming in and being this young, bright-eyed guy, full of energy and wanting to prove himself in animation, and I just wanted to take that out of him, just squash it down and just
crush his soul.
Did he have hair then? Did he have hair then?
I did have hair then.
You did have hair. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's all gone now.
Yeah, I remember those days when I was happy.
Well, it's funny that show. It was the first time I was supervising, and so Chris was one of my first animators as a supervisor, and he was always great to work with because he was always up for whatever needed to be done, and he always had good humor and good attitude and made work really easy and fun. And yes, so
I did always have good humor ice cream. Thank you.
Yeah, I know people complained.
Yeah, it was.
Came with a little cart with the bell on it. Ding ding ding. What's our ice cream?
I did probably tease Chris just a little bit more than some of the other people. But
that's fine. That's fine. I get it. Yeah, that was my first show. I couldn't have had a better supervisor. for my first show.
Oh.
Like that. All the other ones.
We'll put in the sappy music here.
and I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about your favorite movie, Zardoz.
Oh,
What?
good.
Yeah.
So good. We did have a lot of
That's
time just putting our faces on stuff.
A lot of Photoshop work happened.
What
Yeah.
is Zardoz?
What?
Oh, you're missing out.
Wait, I'm looking on the list.
No.
I'm so confused.
It's not something I worked on.
Oh.
No.
It's
Oh, okay.
1970s Sean Connery movie, sci-fi.
Okay. Oh, I know what you're talking about now.
He's in a Borat.
Yes. Yes.
thing.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with this list going, I don't see that one.
We did a lot of Photoshop work that went out in a lot of emails, and I took our entire team and I put each of their faces on Sean Connery's body.
Yeah.
With that image.
Could that be your
Amazing.
Christmas card
Mhm.
this year?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, there was the one. So I used to make Photoshop. So every day we'd have like a morning dailies, and then in the afternoon we would do rounds where I would walk to everyone's desk and catch up. And I was definitely, for my first time out supervising, I had all this energy, and I made a different image to announce rounds on email for the team every day. And so I did a lot of different stuff about when rounds are. I made one look like an old, like a doctored sci-fi magazine cover about when rounds are. And then I was, and trying to think of something different to do. There was one I did where I took a picture of Chris and I added all this stuff to him, and I gave him this hair, and he's like, "Wow, you made me look like my mom."
And he did.
I want this picture.
It doesn't take that much to make me look like my mom, though. So that's.
It was shared on Facebook at least once or twice.
Oh, yeah, all these are on Facebook.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sure if you go to my tagged images, you will.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, you got to go back to like 2010 or something like that, or 2011 tagged images, but they'll be there.
Oh yeah.
So one of the people watching on YouTube said that Vance said it sounds like one of the coolest jobs ever. I'm guessing he's talking about you working for Disney and the stuff that you've done, not putting people's faces on their bodies.
Gotcha.
I thought he was talking about podcasting.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it could be.
We get paid so well. Just roll them in.
It's been so I having worked around a bunch of stuff. Some movies are fun to work on, others are less fun. And even some of the best projects that get the most critical acclaim can be a real slog for people to work on. And so there's no accounting for like what your experience is going to be, either if it's a good movie, bad movie, it all just depends. There's a lot of things involved. And I gotta say, it goes back. There's Kevin Rafferty was the executive creative director on the ride, and he was an over 40-year veteran who just retired from Disney, and he wrote an autobiography of his 40 years with Disney, starting as a guy sweeping, custodian, all the way up to he was responsible for Tower of Terror and Rock and Roll Roller Coaster and this ride, and he was the executive creative director of all of Cars Land. And like the guy's, history is just full of favorite rides of people. And, the thing about working with him is that, some people, you can have good bosses, and then there's also like good bosses. And he is one of these people whose only mission in life is to, spread joy. Like literally, like he is, when people watch the Mr. Rogers documentary and they talk about how good of a person he was, Kevin is exactly like that. He is that type of person. And he's this guy that remembers everyone's name the first time he meets them. And no matter who you are on the show, the ops people that open the gates for you, he goes up and introduces himself to them when he sees them and gets their name and doesn't forget it. And he says hi to them. And every year he would give you a gift. And let me and he gives you all these personalized gifts. And so, like, one thing, is one of our train whistles,
That's cool.
and and he writes personal messages. And so at Christmas, you get these posters that he writes like a full page, and he does that for everyone on the ride.
Wow.
And so, coming from some of the other projects, like in visual effects, I obviously worked with wonderful people, but there's a lot of high stress in that environment because you're a vendor working for a client, and there's an expectation, and it's always like, where is it? Where is it? When is it done? And so that can take some of the joy out of it sometimes, because you're just grueling. And working on this ride with Kevin was really like it was one of the best things in the world, because this man, he brings everyone in, and he trusts them, and he encourages them to do the best that they can do. And because of him and his attitude, allowed me to do all the stuff that I got to do on it, and the rest of my team, and the other people on the ride, people in charge of all the lighting, and the production designers who design all the show set and the sets and everything, and the building and everything. And it's infectious. It's infectious, because what happens is when the guy leading it brings that attitude, then everyone else has that attitude. And our whole mantra, like through the whole ride, was just, how can we make this thing as joyful and fun as possible? And that's all we thought about. That was day in, day out. So for me, it was really one of the most wonderful experiences ever. So absolutely.
Very cool.
Very cool. Well, it works because the ride does bring lots of laughs, lots of joy. It's one of my new favorite rides at Disney World. So
I know, I wish I could be super explicit, and I know we only touched on a few things because there's so many aspects to it. Between talking about the folks at Disney TV, the composer Christopher Willis, who I got to work with, the rest of my team, over the years, Blaine Kennison, who was one of our main artists, and Nick DeSilva, the guys that I worked with, and Matt Shep, and all these guys that all showed up and brought their best work with them. And the artist, that I worked with, this gentleman, Brad, and Brad was this guy who could take all the art and recreate it. And there is not one thing in the ride visually that Brad didn't touch. There's just all these wonderful people that just did amazing, amazing work. And that's the thing about it is, when you're with a good team, it sounds corny and cliche, but you can do anything, and it's one of those things where it's like, when it's a cliche, but you feel it, it's that's always the best.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have, but have you got a chance just to go and just watch the reactions of the people that come off the ride?
Yeah. The opening day, and I almost kind of missed this because I didn't understand what was going on. But a bunch of us all sat there at the end of the ride when the first riders came off, and I got there about a half hour, 40 minutes, so I wasn't there for the very first ones. But the whole team was just standing there watching everyone get off the ride for the first time, and just seeing their things. And I was just in Florida a few weeks ago, and went on it again, and the park was still open, so it's fun sitting there in cars and watching people. And we're in the dance studio, and there's a car of other people who are just guests, excuse me, and they're all dancing to the waltz and the conga as it's happening. And
my family does that. We dance the whole time.
Yeah, it does bring a lot of joy, and it is really great to see.
So when you were getting on the ride, the person's like, "How many won?" You go, "Oh yeah, this is one of the rides that I made."
Step aside.
Yeah, step aside. I made this. No, that's really cool. It's just amazing the work that you've done over the years, and it seems like it keeps getting better and better. And I can't wait to see what you do next. And it was funny when you walk back to get that train whistle, because on the screen, I'm sure there was some people going, "That's a really cool background he has." And but no, it's not a background.
Mhm.
He basically has Walt Disney's office in his back. He just walk back there, and he has his own um, animation desk, which is really cool, or whatever desk you call
Yep.
it. But that's sweet looking.
That is, and I wasn't sure. This was actually, I actually found out more information from Donald Duck, voice Tony and Salmo. So the voice of Donald Duck, Tony, is he was a 2D feature animator for Disney, and he could do the voice of Donald. Now he's been Donald for like 25 years or so, and he has a real original Ken Weber animation desk. And so since I had worked with him a little bit, I sent him a message asking if he could give me information on it. And then he's like, "Send me pictures of what you have." And he's like, "Oh no, that's not a Ken Weber." You know, okay, all right, you know, because I was fairly ignorant. This is a 1990s era desk based on the Ken Weber design. So this is from Disney Feature. It's a Disney Feature desk, and it was one of the ones when they were getting rid of 2D, they were junking a lot of them. They had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things, and they were throwing them out. And a friend of mine that I used to work with on Futurama, this guy Eddie Rosas, had received it. He had another friend at Disney Feature who told him about it, and they went and got it. And Eddie had this desk for a few years, but he didn't have room for it, and it was in his garage. And we went over for something, and he was showing me around, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't have room for it. Do you want it?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "Yes." So brought it home, super lucky, and yeah, it's got my animation desk, and then got my 16 field disc, and you can't see the pictures, but those are some of the 2D art that I've bought over the years. The small ones right up there are pencil drawings, animation layers from Sleeping Beauty. So I've got Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, and then King Hugh is on the wall over there. But yeah,
that's so cool.
This office is new. My office used to be in a smaller room down the hallway, and with COVID and everything, and all the time, we were able to, play musical chairs with the rooms and make my, I've been waiting years to be able to do this, and so this was like finally this year. All my toys are up here above us here. I can't turn the camera to see it, but it's all toys up here, and
cool.
all books over here, and a comic book rack over there,
Nice.
and then desk over there.
Very nice. And I got to check out some of your artwork too online, and it's amazing. So,
Oh, thank you.
very, very cool. Well, it's getting late, and we've been going for like about an hour and a half now, almost. But Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a true pleasure, and you're welcome on the show anytime. Before you go, is there anything you want to plug? You can plug yourself, anything you work on, whatever. This is your time. I give it to you.
Well, I just started selling supplements over the mail. It's this new marketing thing that I'm into, and so I really got a bunch of Herbalife.
Let me get a pen. Hold on.
So, I'm currently working on the next version of the ride, which they've announced for some time around summerish or springish of 23, and so that's all that is. But I'm always happy if people come by my Instagram and take a look at stuff. That's where I'm working on personal pitches and stuff for various ideas, and anyone that comes by those things and looks at what's on there, some of those things I haven't really explicitly said, like this project is this. I just kind of post images as I do them, but a lot of them are part of different things that I'm trying out. And I'm always happy if people come by Instagram and take a look. So,
what's your Instagram?
It is Art of RPD.
Cool.
exactly how it spells, just ARTOFRPD.
Yes. A lot of fun stuff on there.
It's got a little skull with my initials. Skull.
Halloween. See, there we go. It all comes back around. There we go. So, Katrin, Chris, do you have anything else before we go? Questions? Comments?
No, this is great.
A
lot of fun.
See, this is what I deal with, Ryan. I throw it to them. I say, "You got
No,
anything?"
you just got through saying it's like, well, we've been going for an hour. I guess we better wrap this
Yeah.
up. Now you're gonna let me ask questions?
So exactly. You run out all the time, and then you're like, any questions? Because TikTok, we gotta go.
Well, I do notice, Chris, that we have both have Haunted Mansion pictures in our rooms here.
Yes.
You've got
Oh
yours.
yeah, I see yours now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just over there, oblong. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have
Fancy.
all the
Thanks.
Haunted Mansion Funko Pops and a handmade mansion up here on my shelf. I can't really show it. But.
Nice.
I didn't tell you guys, but I got new vinyls. They're not pops, but the ones at Target. Got them for Father's Day. But anyways, the little ones, they're like the.
Oh, those are
there's
Funkos.
4
Yeah.
of them. Oh, well, yeah, they're Funko. They're just the mini. They're not the
Yeah.
full size, I guess. But I've got to get 2 more, and I'll have them all.
Which one do you need?
I don't know. I have the mummy. I have the hat. Guy in the hat. I've got the one with the beard. I don't know their names. They don't have the names on the boxes. But and then some other little ghosts, but I can't remember which ones I mean. Yeah.
Phineas, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
I don't.
Ryan's like,
I just like we're all looking around like.
yeah, we're all like, what can we?
Yeah.
I put up my Lego Batwing. It's up here. Oh.
What?
That's
Oh
yeah.
Original, one of the Daggets from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh wow.
That guy sits right there. These guys are all movie monsters. Lots of robots. Or let's see what else we got here. We got Lupin on a Kira's bike.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Mishmash of stuff. Lots of stuff.
I got the scared little kid from Nightmare Before Christmas. It's also a tape dispenser.
What is happening?
That's awesome.
This is the part where
Showing
you have to
time.
watch YouTube to see what's going on.
So this is why he doesn't ask us.
Yeah, this is why I don't ask them questions. Anybody want to see my tape dispenser?
Hey, I mean, it dispenses. That's probably still the original tape that came with it. So,
Probably so.
Wow.
Is that like for a different podcast you do? Do you like just take down the black curtain when you're doing the other podcast about all your tape dispensers?
Yeah,
This
this is all tape dispensers back here.
Nice.
I mean, some that date back to the old Starsky and Hutch show. Just various
Wow.
tape dispensers. Yeah.
Very nice.
Good
Also,
show.
this
You
is
have
my-
like an
this
Alvin
is
and the
my,
Chipmunks one. or
Kyber
anything?
crystal
Oh yeah.
holder. Right, that's what I'll show. It's something I made.
Nice. Look at that.
Yeah, made it.
That's cool.
I take it to Galaxy's Edge and people go crazy about it. That's always fun. It's the only place I feel like a celebrity when I take all my stuff to Galaxy's Edge. Anyways, it's been fun, Ryan. Thank you so much for putting up with us and just having fun with us. You're welcome back anytime. And next time, if you come back on, you may be like, nope, I'm done. Next time, I'll have it all laid out behind me of where all the secrets are on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I'll have the yarn stretching. It'll be great. It'll be conspiracy episode of Runaway Railway.
I'd be happy to be back, and thank you guys so much. And it's been good seeing your face again, Chris.
Oh, yours too.
Oh.
Stop. You stop.
No, you stop. No, you hang up. No, you hang up.
Oh, yeah, I've got to do the outro. But thank you again. This has been episode 199 of I Am Geek. And next week, we'll be coming with you with episode 200. It's going to be amazing.
Hold on.
Oh, and Comicpalooza is coming up. We forgot to mention that earlier. That is totally my fault. We will be at Comicpalooza July 17th, 18th.
17th. Yes.
And we're going to have live shows. It's going to be fun. They just announced more guests. There's going to be the cast of Mandalorian. There's going to be some of the cast. Oh.
Some of the cast of
Some of the cast of Mandalorian.
David Ramsey.
Yeah, just announced. Some folks
announced.
from the Arrowverse.
Dominic Parcell from Prison Break and Legends will be there. So.
And then Hellboy himself will be there, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Ron Perlman.
Ron
Will
Perlman.
be there. A lot of guests.
Yeah, so many.
So come join us if you are in the Houston area or anywhere. Just fly on down at Comicpalooza. You can check it out, comicpalooza.com, for tickets and all the questions you might have about it. And we will see you there. And we'll be talking with you next week for episode 200 of I Am Geek.
Bye-bye.